So I would always have a book in my hand, and I was always reading, and I read the classic. So what we were doing is getting in contact with that person, either the director of activities, or depending on the size of the facility, if it's smaller, it may just be the owner. And getting in contact with that person and then selling them our program, which was for us to come in and sit with the older people for their activity time for like an hour whenever they needed us.
But do you also have the time to be able to engage in storytelling with them, and so that you can hear what are they thinking?
Hear some things about, when they grew up or their children, and they would tell me different stories, and that was really the best part.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us in today's episode of the Obehi Podcast, where we talk about story. We like to talk about story because story is actually the foundation of everything. It tells us who we are and also how we'll be able to connect with the other people that live in the same space with us, and why not even those that are living in other spaces. So storytelling is fundamentally important. This is why we continuously encourage people, founders and business owners, to continue to leverage it. Because if you leverage your own story now, you never need to compete with other people, because no person is going to be exactly you or have the same experience that you have had. They might have a different version of it, but not exactly like you have had. So if you hone that, then you cannot compete with any person. All right. Nylina, that is the name of the guest I'm going to be talking with today. And she's going to be sharing with us what she does. What does Nylina does? First of all, who is she? Let's start from there.
I am, oh, thank you, first of all, for having me on your podcast. Who am I? Such an interesting question. I am an oldest daughter. I am a woman in tech. I am a mother. I'm so many different things. I'm a founder. So what I'm here to talk about today mainly is the platform that I'm creating and what that's all about. So I recently launched an app called Phictly, which is supposed to unite people who love stories. So this is very timely and appropriate, I think. Our platform is to elevate independent authors, diverse voices, and so we're super excited to get it out there and share it with people. It's in the form of an app, so you can download it onto your phone, Android or Apple, and just connect with other people who love the same books, TV shows, and movies as you. I'm going back into my childhood. Stories are very central to who I am. I was actually homeschooled. So I am the oldest of seven children, and I was actually homeschooled. So I never went to a public school until I went to college. And so my parents were very religious, and they wanted us to be protected from all the things that we could be influenced by, possibly in the world. So they kept us at home. And one of the only ways for me to escape and kind of like learn more about the world was first through stories. Because when I was very young, we didn't have TV, we didn't have internet. But I did have books. And so I would always have a book in my hand. And I was always reading, and I read the classics. So I loved Anne of Green Gables, The Little Princess, Pollyanna. Jane Eyre was my favorite book of all time. And so I would read those stories, and I would just be inspired by a lot of the children um, in those stories are orphans, or they're trying to find their way in the world on their own. And so I was very inspired by like that independent spirit, and it kind of just had me thinking about how I would escape from my situation and make my life better. And so a lot of what I actually would do is I would sit my siblings down, and we would have sessions in the living room, idea sessions where we would brainstorm the ways that we could create inventions and become rich so that we could all one day live together on and I don't know, we would just think of like a bucket list and like what we could do if we became rich from coming up with all these ideas. And so I would maintain lists of inventions And we were not rich, so we were a low income family. There was not really ways for us to build these things, but it was interesting over the years to see different people create the things we thought of as kids. And I always, from then, had an entrepreneurial spirit. So I was always thinking of ideas and different things. And I started my first business actually right after I graduated college, um, which was a business for teaching older people how to use technology because what I studied in school was computer information systems, software design. And so my very first business was I would go into elderly homes and I would sit with the older people and I would help them use a tablet for an activity, teach them how to set up their Facebook or just play a game with them, depending on where their cognitive function was. And I actually it was actually a business. We got 40 customers in our client book. And I had family helping me go into the appointments once it got too much to manage. But then I ended up um, getting a job in Washington, D.C. in government consulting, so
All
public
right.
sector
So
consulting.
let look about that business because that sounds very interesting now relating to also what we do. So you go to meet these elderly people in the house. You help them to set up
Um,
Facebook accounts.
so
Yeah.
actually, my sister my younger sister was helping me with the sales because I was working during the day. So she was helping me with the sales, and we were calling older people home. So, like the nursing homes, the 55 and up plus communities. And we were selling them this concept because a lot of them have activities programs and there's an activities manager. So what we were doing is getting in contact with that person, either the director of activities or depending on the size of the facility, if it's smaller, it may just be the owner and getting in touch contact with that person and then selling them our program, which was for us to come in and sit with the older people for their activity time for like an hour whenever they needed us because they have different schedules. So they'll take them out to do things, or if they aren't able to be moved, then they'll just sit with them and do activities or wheel them to a room, their activity room. And so they'll have performers come in. And so we were essentially coming in as not performers, but as a consultant who's just providing this activity service.
How was that
Mhm.
experience for you, being able to walk into, because now, okay, we have an academy where we teach people know how to apply the knowledge that they have. We have different experts coming from different places with whom we could create some of these courses. So one of the things that we were in the course of our research, because we need to do a research of the project before we eventually launch it, even though we are still sort of in between the beta test and the full launching of the project. But one of the things that we discovered is that when you are doing tutoring online, or when you are doing tutoring, whether it's online or offline, sometimes you have this time that you need to go into people's home to teach them. That is what that's where many people started. I did it myself too. That you go to meet somebody, you teach whether you are teaching them maths or teaching them about chemistry, depending on whatever is their necessity. So one of the things that we also discovered there is that it's not very scalable, that kind of project, because how many homes can you really go into to teach people? Plus,
Exactly.
you need to only teach people within your neighborhood. If you need to start teaching people maybe in the next city now, it becomes quite expensive for you. And so maybe you're going to be charging a premium for those people that they are going to be meeting. You are never going to be able to do that kind of business for a long term. So that is a kind
Right.
of a feeling we have. Yeah, say something about that.
The difference with what we were doing is that we were going to facilities where these people are, right? So that's really the best avenue, in my opinion. That's how we were starting. And like eventually our plan was we could do one-on-ones for the more affluent um, nursing homes or 55 plus communities where the elderly people could afford that one-on-one time. But we started out doing group sessions. So I left that part out, but it was actually one or two people going, and then there would be 20 to 30 older people in the room. So we were charging maybe like $100 for the hour. It depended on the facility. So it would range from $75 to $150 for the hour, depending on how large the facility was. And this was back in 20, maybe 2015 to 2017. So, back then that was a decent amount to be charging for 1 hour, especially as someone who was just graduating college, wasn't bad at all. We got up to 44 clients, but these are businesses. So this is a business to business service that we're offering. So that was pretty good. And if we had kept growing, we could have expanded regionally, um, and just kept building our client book. So I think the way that we approached it made a lot of sense. But to your point, like depending on what you're offering, yes, it is very challenging to scale. And at the end of the day, it's really a people business that you have because you're still selling, people to these companies or to these people. So you're sending individuals in. It's more challenging because if you don't have a really strong business set up and people don't get benefits and things like that, they're not going to stay. So then you're sending in people with great personalities, but when they leave, now you have to replace them with other people. And so that's also the challenge because, like for an example, when I started, my cousin was helping me and he's very extroverted, very friendly. So when I would send him in, that was great, right? But when he left, then I had to find someone else. And then I'm not saying that that girl was, she was just didn't have the same personality. She was quieter. She didn't really have the passion. So yeah, it is challenging.
All right. Yeah, I can understand that. I can understand that. So, what happened to the business at the end of the day?
So when I ended up getting a job in DC, my parents around the same time told my sister because she was still only 14 that they didn't want her working on the business. So I just had to close it down, and that's what ended up happening. But around that time, we were talking about maybe actually expanding by working with some smaller towns, like going directly to the government, and maybe trying to sell to the government, but and do training programs, but that just never happened. So I ended up moving on and focusing on my career. So that's what I did.
All right. Now, just one more thing there. You are going to this elderly home now, and you are schooling them or how to maybe get into the Facebook of the world, or maybe create a social media account and some other things like that. But do you also have the time to be able to engage in storytelling with them, and so that you can hear what are they thinking? Because that is what many people don't ask. These elderly people, what are they thinking?
Yeah. So honestly, that didn't happen often, but when it did, it was the very best part of that business, just hearing their stories. And so usually that would happen when I would go in and then maybe there would only be a group of like two or three people. So then you get more time to actually connect and speak with them. And so like I did hear some things about, when they grew up or their children, and they would tell me different stories. And that was really the best part, that connection. And when you meet somebody really interesting, because, a lot of elderly people, they are left in those places and they're kind of forgotten and ignored, but they're there and they've lived lives and you can hear advice and learn so much. I mean, there are doctors and just people with very interesting stories that are they just happen to have health conditions and now they can't live on their own, but they're still people. They're still interesting and fascinating. So.
Did you notice that your eyes actually shine up the more when you talk about the story, when you engage with these elderly people? I don't know if those that are listening, they pay attention to that. It tells me that there is something really powerful about story.
Mhm.
And people should not take that lightly. Because you could
Yeah,
share
it's the
statistics.
connection, right? It's the
Yeah,
way that
good.
you feel. And also, you can relate to others when you hear their stories because that's when you find the things that, you connect on. And it's just a beautiful thing. It is. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And how much is storytelling part of what you do today?
I think it needs to be more of what I do because that's kind of what's lacking. Like, I've been so focused on building the platform, technically just getting it out there. And now the shift is actually to telling the story, like, who am I? Why am I building this? And so I'm actually starting my LinkedIn campaign to share my story, to share my why, and to share some of the things that we're building and we plan on building. So that's actually actively happening. I did my first LinkedIn post yesterday. So I'm hoping that I can connect with more people about stories now, do more storytelling.
You published your first LinkedIn post yesterday or post
Well,
related to this
I've
campaign?
posted
Yeah.
before, but related to this campaign, I just kicked it off and I posted my first story, like a little sharing a little tidbit about me, right? But I want to share more. I'd like to do speaking engagements. So I'm just starting to share my story, putting myself out there because normally I'm a very introverted person and I don't necessarily, first me, the social media thing is big. So I've just in the past year started posting a little bit on TikTok, and I need to do that more frequently. But we do have a content creator on our team, but people want to connect with me as the founder. So that is what I'm working on: telling my story, sharing my story. I am a writer. I have a poetry collection that I have not published yet, but my dream, also inspired by all the stories I grew up reading, is to write. Okay, it's a big dream, but it's to write the next biggest American classic, something that's nostalgic and that takes people back to like all of the classics that we know and love. That has always been my dream. So I have a book that I'm working on, but we'll see.
All right. This is January. Today is 20th of January, where it's the beginning of the year. What is your plan for that project?
For the book,
Yeah.
um, for the book, oh, that's the hard. That's a challenging question because the book is not my focus, right? The book is my love. I always go back to writing, but building my platform is my focus right now. It's been very challenging for me to find the time to write because for writing, I have to be in a place where I can be imaginative in a different way because the scenes come to me and I have to be able to go to that place. I'm a very good descriptive writer, but if I am um, multitasking and I'm working on like the technical stuff, it's just like that different creative side kind of goes out the window because it's like a voice that's speaking to me that I have to connect to. And so I need to be in my most relaxed state for that. So hopefully I can find time to make progress on the book. And hopefully when I build my platforms to a point where I have a very strong team, they're stable, I'll be able to go to that space more. Just get away for 2 days, I don't know, and be in my writing mood.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for so much for that. Now, let's wear this founder's hat.
Mhm.
What are you working on at the moment? Tell us more about this, your current project that you have founded.
We are just working on growing our user base, right? So right now we're at 300 users, and we launched in November of 2025. So our goal is to just engage our audience, grow our user base, tell our story, tell my story, really get out there what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to develop partnerships with bookstores, authors, libraries, and that sort of thing. So right now we're really trying to connect with our audience, engage and figure out more of what people like about our platform, what they want, and build towards that. So that's what we're doing right now. We have some really cool features that are in progress that we're trying to ship as soon as possible. So that's kind of where we're at. It was a challenge to launch the platform, and now that it's out there, it's just enhancing it and kind of just figuring out what people like, what they don't like, and building.
Where did this idea came from that you decided to set up this project that you have founded? Then, of course, you have people that are working with you on it.
So it always goes back to family for me. My sister and I, we were just talking and we said, we work on a lot of things that are more focused on just the end result, money, trying to, make money. And which is what business is all about, right? But what could we do that would we could enjoy as we build it out. And so we both love reading, and so we thought it would be really cool to um, build something for readers. And so that's where it all started. We had just did a family book club. And based on my experience doing the family book club, I thought maybe there's a better way to do book clubs. And so that's how the platform was kind of built.
Mhm. And who are you really targeting there in this platform? Who are these people that you are specifically designing this platform for?
We're targeting millennials, Gen Zers who love to read, watch TV, and watch movies, and who want to talk about the stories that they're enjoying or that they've enjoyed in the past, and that just get really excited, get on there, talk, connect, and meet other people who like reading and watching the same things. And so you can follow people on the platform and stay in touch, invite them to your next discussion. And so that's really the heart of it all, just the connection and meeting more people who love the same things as you, being able to share them, share those things with them in the future.
All right. So, but how does this platform really work? Can you show something to us? I don't know if you have an app somewhere or if you can walk us through something within it. We are curious.
Oh, okay. I didn't expect I would have to demo. Let's see. I think the best way would be if I join the call and then I share my screen on my
Okay,
phone.
that'll be fine. We're here.
So the app is called Phictly. So this is the app. When you get onto the home screen, you can see your clubs at the top that you're participating in. We have a Phictly featured section, which is the lineup that we've chose to feature in the app to showcase different books that are out there that we may think are of interest to our Phictly users across different genres. And then we have a trending club section, recently created clubs. And then we have a social feed where you can see like the different updates of what people are doing in the app. And then also you can post to the social feed like on other social media like Threads or X or Twitter. And you can also view this social feed to see more. So how it works is when you get on here, you can either choose to join one of these clubs when you just kind of explore and see what's available, but you can also create your own club as well. So if you're interested, for example, um, like if you love Anna Green Gables like me, you search for Anna Green Gables and create your own Anna Green Gables club. You can set a start date and an end date. We're playing around with things like how many people we think should be like maximum in a club. Should it be able to have hundreds of users or should it be more intimate? Our initial concept is that we think smaller groups are better for connection. So the maximum number of members that can join a club right now is 20, but you could also opt to make that maximum smaller. So if you want to keep it a group of like 6 people so that you can really try to connect and get to know people and that you're not overwhelmed, because what we saw with a lot of the competition is that they had like thousands of people in their clubs, but then when you would get on to those apps and you would try to say hello, no one would be responding. So our goal is to boost engagement and find ways to make sure that people are coming back to the app and actually connecting and conversating with each other about the books. And so we're trying to create features surrounding engagement and making that really good of an experience. So then you can create the club and you have different options here. So you can edit your timeline if you'd like to adjust it, and then you can add talk points. And that's really important because when we add the video conferencing, it will be an option here where when you create a new talk point, which is essentially your checkpoint for when you want to come back to the group and make sure everybody's discussing, I don't know, a chapter or a topic or a subject. So then you can name your talk point, for example, chapter 2. And then you you add it. Oh, that's great. Yes, so you add your talk point, and then it's going to show up here on this timeline. And when everybody comes back to the app on that day, then they talk about chapter 2. And so when we have video conferencing added in here, that's also going to create an option for people to join the video conference, like a Zoom, but it would be within our app, our own video conferencing, to talk about chapter 2.
Now, as a founder of this organization, this project, how do you intend to be able to monetize it? That is also an important part now, because when you have a business, like you said before, it's sometimes also about how to be able to
Yes.
generate income so you can
Yeah.
sustain it. So tell me about the monetization of this project.
Yeah. Okay. So monetizing, we have the Phictly featured section. That's actually your there's a cost to that. So it's not free to be featured. The cost is $49 for a feature currently. And so when you apply on the Get Featured page on our website, you can apply to be featured on that page. And so the only thing that we're really managing is we want to make sure we have a variety of different genres. So we don't want to just feature all romance. So we try to mix it up. So that's why when you apply, you get added into the queue, and then we're going to organize that. But you get featured in the app for a week. So that's one of our ways that we're monetizing. And then also, there's a really cool website called bookshop.org, which is a platform that sells books. But what's unique about them is that they partner with independent bookstores, because I don't know if you know about like what's going on with Amazon and how like Amazon's basically monopolizing and taking over everything, but they started out with selling books, and they're really impacting a lot of the independent bookstores. It's very challenging for them to stay open and to find customers because everyone's so used to the fast shipping of Amazon, or they'll go to like Barnes and Nobles, the bigger booksellers. And so what bookshop.org is doing is they're partnering with independent bookstores. So when you buy through them, there's a certain percentage of the money that goes to independent bookstores that are fulfilling the different orders. And so what we try to do is use the bookshop.org purchase links in our app, and we get a certain we're an affiliate with them, so we get a certain cut of any purchases that someone would make through our links, and then those proceeds are also helping independent bookstores. So our goal is that for every book that you can search for in our app, we would also have a purchase link that would link back to bookshop.org, and then we would also get a cut of those proceeds when people purchase books through our links. And then another way is through um, partnerships, right? So eventually, our goal is to partner with publishers, partner with libraries, and then when that helps grow our user base, people are going to come back to our app and we'll have premium features, different ways that we're going to build the app out and have advanced features that will have a cost. And so those premium features will also be another way for us to create revenue.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much for that. Now, what about the different version of the book? Okay, you have the print version. You have also maybe the audio version. Of course, you can also have the video version. So, what
Yeah.
type of version do you have? And yeah, tell me about that.
So our app is essentially for the discussion of the book, right? So we're not fulfilling the orders. Whatever version of the book that you're reading, listening to, that doesn't really matter, because when you go into our app, you can pick the different versions, but ultimately you're creating a discussion group, right? So currently, the only buy links would be for the physical books. But if you're reading an audiobook, there's no reason why you can't create a club to read that audiobook, listen to that audiobook, and still discuss that content with other people who are listening to the physical book or who may also be listening to the audiobook. That really doesn't matter, but all the different versions are available for you to create a club on.
All right. So before I was talking about the research that we did about the Aclasses Academy, which is our online platform for education. Then I was talking about being able to find out some information about like how do you start? What are some of the challenges that you have? So in the case of your organization, can you share with me like what did you find to be the problem that you are solving for the people?
Yeah, I think it's just engagement because what I see is with a lot of apps, after the app is created, it's very difficult to connect with other people because people they forget about the smaller apps on their phones, right? So they forget about the Peanut, which is a mom app, because they're always on Facebook or they're always on TikTok, right? So it's really finding ways to connect with our audience, figure out what they want, and bring them back to our platform so they still open our app. So having things that the other platforms don't have, I think is really the way that is the solution, right? But we're that's exactly what our challenge is, finding ways to make it very engaging so people will come back. And so I think it's a combination of having what which is really a challenge, having what everybody else has, but then also having something really unique and special that makes people want to come back and open our app and use it and connect. And I think our biggest challenge right now is just growing our user base because with our app, having the people on the platform for others to meet and connect with is really the bread and butter, like the connection, the being able to share the stories. That is really what makes our app. And so building our user base really is the biggest challenge right now because we want the app to feel really engaging. But if people aren't finding other people who are reading the same books, then, it's kind of like a moot point. So that's really the biggest challenge. But we just launched. So I'm super excited to just continue working on that.
That's interesting. Okay, Nalina, thank you so much for the time. Now, people want to get to connect to you and learn more about what you're doing. Why not also this particular platform that you have created? So let them know how they can do that.
Right. So if you would like to download the app, it is available globally in the App Store and the Google Play Store. So all you have to do is type in Phictly, Phictly, and it's going to come up and you'll be able to just go ahead and download it. And then if you'd like to connect with me, I mean, I can share my LinkedIn link, but also you can email me at naiken@phictly.com if you'd like to connect.
That's
And you have
interesting.
questions, yes.
All right. They definitely must have questions. You know, true. If you have listened to the end of the conversation to this point, you definitely want to ask something or share something or why don't connect to Nalina? She's available to take all the conversation with you. So we thank you so much for having accompanied us to the end of this conversation. And Nalina, thank you so much for the time.